Well, dude, it's been a minute. How you been?
Yeah, I've been great, man. How about yourself?
Freaking loving life. And you're officially like I can officially tag you on Instagram and like be friends with you on
Now,
Instagram
yeah,
now.
apparently now you can. Yeah, I think they just let me off the hook like a couple weeks ago.
You're out of
For now.
yeah for now.
For now,
Yeah. So for those that don't know, which you should know, and I want you to introduce yourself and talk about your background a little bit, but then I want to talk about how you completely derailed my speech at the Roger Up event.
I'm sorry. I didn't even do that.
I was like, "Hey, is there a world champ in the audience?" And he's like, "Yeah, right there." And I'm like, "Sweet, perfect example." And you're like, "Nah, bro, that never happened." And then afterwards, you're like, "No, that totally happened." I'm like, "God dang it, Kevin."
Yeah, I know. I just I want to make it. I don't want to make things easy for you. It helps you work harder.
Yeah, make me work harder, right? Explain things in more detail. But anyways,
yeah.
Before we get into your background, what did you just retire from?
Fighting. I just retired from fighting. I was a professional Muay Thai fighter for about 20 years. I did a little bit of kickboxing and some other things as well, but Muay Thai was my main passion, my goal, and my focus. And then I had my retirement fight a year and a half ago in June in Florida, and it was fortunately I was happy. My last fight was a Muay Thai fight. I was actually doing kickboxing for about 5 years, and I always wanted to have at least one more Muay Thai fight, and I was fortunate to be able to line that up to where that was going to be my last fight. And I was very, very happy to be able to go out in the thing that I really do love the most, which is Muay Thai.
And it was beautiful, man. You're so fast.
Yeah. Thanks.
And so let's go back. So first, congratulations on, 20 plus years of a career of getting punched in the face. But yeah, so here I am at Roger Up, and I gave this talk about basically limiting belief factors, right? That you have to visualize, this whole thing of like visualizing your success, visualizing what you're going to be, whether it's, it could be anything, money, losing weight, a relationship with your wife. It doesn't matter what it is, but the fact that you have to, if you can't believe it, if you can't envision it, then it ain't going to happen. And the majority of world-class athletes out there, they, talking to like Kurt Angle and all these, different people that I've met over the years, Matt Vincent, they literally envision themselves, not Kevin Ross, but they envision themselves, on the podium. They envision themselves winning the thing, whatever it is, achieving the goal, but they believe it so much that it has already happened. To them, it has already happened. They just got to travel the road, do the work to get there. But the end state has already happened. And I'm on stage and I'm like, "Hey, did you ever envision or believe that you were, you're envisioning, you're raising your hands and winning?" You're like, "No, never, man." And then afterwards you said, "But tell them what you actually did, what the reality of it was."
Well, to be fair, I think it was the way that you structured it, and so
it was
that's
my
what
fault.
You were saying. But
it was
definitely your fault. So what you said was, or what you asked me was, did you know that you were going to win every time? Like, did you visualize yourself winning? I'm like, and I was like, no, definitely not. There's a lot more to it than that. But as far as, how we talked about, I photoshopped myself with the belt on and visualizing winning and that kind of thing. And there was just some crossover there that
I thought that was
like
you even took it. I wish you would have said that when I was on stage, like, "Oh yeah, and I actually photoshopped belts on me," because that truly is. I mean, that's what you have to do. And I think that, and it's cheesy, right? I get people on the outside can think it's cheesy and whatnot, but the reality is, you have to do that stuff. You have to.
For sure. Yeah. If you don't know where you're going or where you want to get to, you're never gonna get there. You at least have to have an idea of where that is.
Right.
And the more specific you can be about it, the closer to that thing you're going to get. So, I wouldn't. Only a couple times did I actually like Photoshop that belt on. But a lot of times, what I would do is I would always have the picture of my opponent. I had it on my phone. I had it on the treadmill. I had it on my bathroom sink. So there was never a moment of time this was not on my mind. Yeah. This person stayed with me. And you also get so comfortable seeing that person where if you don't, the first time you step on the scale with them, you're automatically looking into these eyes of a person. Like, you don't necessarily know how you're going to respond to that. But when you get comfortable with seeing that person over and over and over again and just visualizing those things and just that mentality and that switch that needs to happen when you get in the ring, I always found that extremely beneficial.
Well, it's as simple as your energy goes where your focus goes. Like where you're hyper focused. Exactly. Like this is the mission. This is the objective, and you can put that into anything in life. But for you at the time for fighting, that was the objective, and anything away from that pulls your focus and pulls your energy into that. And because you did that, you became a world champ. But so you're successful in that world, right? But something that I realized that I've been doing, and I just started this on the last podcast too. We talk a lot about people's success, and I'm like, how did you become successful? And we can talk about that and your training regime and all that. But what I really think that I think that it hits home harder is your failures. And, and we all have them. And so if you can remember just one story or one failure that really hit you, but how that failure led to more success. Do you have any failures in your life?
I got lots. Plenty of those to pull from. The biggest thing for me with fighting and everything was I had viewed, my life prior to that was in my mind just failing, giving up, letting the world beat me down, using all these excuses that I had for not going after things, and just being comfortable with whatever was going to be given to me. And then I finally, started fighting, turned my life around. And then that first fight was just gigantic, eye-opening experience by losing, by getting stopped, and having to face that my very first time in the ring. A lot of people don't have to necessarily go through that right away, and you get this false sense of how things are going to go and whether you can actually do this. Everybody can do that when things are going well, when things are nice, when the checks are coming in, when your wife or your girlfriend's happy, when your kids are healthy and doing well. It's easy to be happy and positive and motivational when that's going well. It's like, what are you going to do when the whole world turns upside down? Do you still want to do this? But it also shows you if you really want to be doing something or not. That's how you know. No one knows if they want to do something when it's going well. That's why you have all those armchair quarterbacks like, oh yeah, that would be great. I would do that. Like, no, you fucking wouldn't. or they talk about how great it would be if I was famous, if I had all this money. And like, yeah, because you're only viewing the positive side of that. You're not viewing the negative side of that. And you're also not viewing what it takes to get there and what it takes to stay there. So we always want these things. And that's why I try to be very vocal about my struggles and things like that. So you have a more realistic picture of what it takes, but it also, I think, humanizes everything. Whereas you look at some of these people and you don't think you can accomplish these things because you assume they're born a certain way, they have a certain look, they have a certain amount of money, they're whatever the case may be. And a lot of those factors might be relevant, but you don't see all their failures, all the businesses that collapsed on them, and that's why I love to read about people's life stories, their origin stories. You see how many failures they went through to get to where they got to. It'll like blow your mind. And the problem is that kind of thing isn't promoted in this world. We promote the success. We promote, this is what you should be. This is how you get there. but they leave out the whole relevant part of the story about what it takes. You have to keep grinding, going through the struggle. You got to keep pushing yourself. And if you understand that, you can apply that to literally any aspect of your life and be successful. If you know how to get good at one thing, you know how to get good at everything. You just change what you're applying those same paths towards, that same process. It's the same for everything in life. It doesn't change regardless of what it is. So figure out what you want to do. This is how you get there.
Discipline.
The details may change, the circumstances. Yeah.
Discipline,
but
consistency,
the base of everything.
Clarity. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So out of your, so I remember you telling me that first fight was a total shit show, which is funny because most people, don't they kind of, if your first fight, don't they kind of prep it to like try to get you to win your first fight?
Sometimes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of people, unfortunately, are babied and brought up. You see it a lot in boxing, more so when they go pro, because there obviously is a process to that, and they're trying to build them up so much so that when they do get to that big money payday fight, they're undefeated. You know, there's of course a reason for that, but they also went through years and years and years of amateur fights where it wasn't necessarily about winning and losing. It was about getting that experience and grinding it out and getting that work in. So that's, you can't necessarily compare that to a lot of things, but yeah, a lot of people do want it to be easy. They want to always look good. You want to feel good. You want to win. Obviously you don't want to go out there and get your head kicked in, but you do need to understand that's coming at some point. And if you can't pick yourself and keep pushing past that, then you shouldn't even get started.
There was so out of 20 years, did you ever hit that like a low on the roller coaster ride during that 20 years?
Yeah, many times. A lot of it for me in the beginning was I just couldn't get any freaking fights. It was impossible. You know, Muay Thai was one of those things that nobody talked about, nobody knew about. You know, UFC started gaining a lot of popularity, so MMA was big. Obviously, boxing was big, but Muay Thai in this country is just a non-factor. It wasn't even a conversation. People didn't even know what it was. You couldn't even tell general people, that you did Muay Thai without saying it's like kickboxing. Yeah, right. And for a Muay Thai fighter, it's just like, fuck, man. It's just like it eats that part of your soul.
No, I get that because this is the reason why they're like, well, what did you do in the Marine Corps? Well, I was a Marine Raider. They're like, well, what is that? I'm like, oh, fuck. Do you know what the Navy SEALs are? Yeah, we're like that, but the Marine Corps. They're like, oh, I get it now. I'm like, God damn it, you know. So
it almost hurts to just even say it. So and then it even bothered me to explain it. So most of the time when people would say that, I'm like, yeah, but still you're just like, no, no, it's not. It's not even the same. It's like trying to compare American football and rugby together. They both run, they both have a ball, they both hit each other, but they're completely day and night different sports. Although there's a lot of aspects that do look similar, but it can be painful to have to explain that to people.
So just getting fights over the years was difficult.
Yeah, so it's like one, obviously you're not making any fucking money because there's never been money in Muay Thai. So that was never even a factor as to why I was doing it. But, you know, not making money, you're basically paying to fight because what it costs to train and what you sacrifice for. So you're sacrificing so much and you're still not even able to do the thing that you love to do.
Yeah.
You know, so at some point, like for myself, I eventually got to the point when I basically fought everyone there was for me to fight in this country. And then I started just fighting whoever. I'm like giving up 20 pounds or taking boxing fights and taking MMA fights just to stay busy because I understood that you got to stay active regardless of what it is. That's such an important piece of the puzzle, staying busy, you know, getting in there day in and day out. For you to
stay healthy, the way I understood it, which we'll get into in a little bit, but for you to stay healthy, it was kind of imperative that you stay active and stay training and stay.
Oh
in that
yeah,
world.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll definitely get into that. But so it was really difficult, and anytime you're going after something like your passion, obviously no one around you is going to understand. So they're always going to be asking, when are you going to give this up? When are you going to stop
Yeah.
doing this? Like it's a hobby or something,
I'm
So
sure you got
clearly
I'm
nobody.
sure you got that for like at least the first like 10, 15 years probably.
Oh, without question. But I knew that going in, so that never even really. I'm like, I don't fucking give a fuck what you what you really think. But I do understand how difficult that is for people. I
Yeah.
think because just the way I grew up, I was already used to being viewed a certain way and not really accepted, and always kind of away from society and the typical paths you follow. So that never really bothered me. But you still feel it. It can't say it doesn't
So
impact you at all.
so
So that was difficult.
Kevin didn't grow up in like a normal suburban life with a rich uncle and no.
No, no, it was my parents divorced very early on. I actually it was really drastic, drastically different lifestyles, because when my parents were together, my dad, we lived in very affluent neighborhoods. He was in real estate, so we were used to living the good life,
Yeah.
and when that's all you assume that's just the way that life is and the way that it's going to be. Just like when you're always winning, you think that's the way that this is just going to be this way forever. And it's great. Yeah. Or you don't even know that it's great. You're just like, this is normal. This is totally normal. And then when they divorced, we went from living in a mansion basically to myself, my brother, my two sisters, and my mom living in a single room in a basement of her friend's house, because we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't live anywhere, and living off the government food stamps. And the hardest part was we were still in these neighborhoods. Like her friend, she still had her friends in that community, so we were extremely poor, and yet we were still in that spectrum. So it was really tough. It was really tough. I mean, as soon as we moved and we're in a place where it's like everybody's poor, you don't it's not a drastic thing. You're like, you're in a group, you can handle it better. But when it's like you're singled out as you're the poor kid,
Yeah.
you're the one that doesn't have anything. And they used to they would have these lines for lunch where the poor kids would get free lunches where everybody else paid for theirs. And I just refused to just eat. I just never ate, because I'm like, you're gonna put me on display in this line saying like, here's the poor kids who don't have anything, and have sympathy for them. Or and kids are fucking assholes, so it's just awful. So I just refused to ever even. I just stopped. I just didn't eat. Maybe that's why I was so skinny my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really a drastic thing, on top of everything else. And then eventually we moved all the way from, we were in Georgia at the time. We moved from Georgia all the way to Oregon. So it's like these really drastic, life-changing events. Not only the financial thing, my parents splitting up, but then being ripped away from everything and everyone that I knew into this brand new place. And that all happened. Geez, when was I? Like 10 years old.
I was just
I think
about to
8 years
ask,
old.
was that like the pivotal moment in kind of the degradation of who, like what you got into, and like probably what you're going to be talking about
Oh yeah.
next. But was that the time when shit started going south and you started doing some dumb shit?
Yeah. Yeah. It completely altered my reality and who I was, because prior to that, I was this really full life, outgoing kid, really happy, and very social. And from that point, I just really internalized everything. Everything just got very dark in my mind. My hope for the world just went, it was like gone.
Yeah.
It's like you're living in this kind of fantasy world almost, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's really dark out here. And it completely changed my perception of what life was, what it should be. And I continually became victim minded, in the sense that I accepted that this is the way life is now. There's nothing you can do about it. you just take what you can get. Life is going to treat you like shit. Everything bad's going to happen. There's no point in looking for or working towards anything because it's just going to be taken away from you. I kind of lost that sense of childhood and dream and wonder and hope for anything. It's like, why hope for something? It's just going to be ripped away. Why, what's the point of doing that? So I just really just lost hope in anything and became really dark. And the way that life continued to go, I didn't see any reason that was going to ever be any different. So I just accepted that this is the way that life is from now on. And well, I never really thought I would live very long anyway. So I just kind of
I remember you saying that. And like you were a teenager, right? You're like, well, I'm not going to live very long.
Yeah.
What were you getting into at the
I
time?
didn't. So I started drinking and doing drugs when I was 12 years old, probably.
Yeah.
And then just progressed from there. I mean, I never got into like crazy hardcore shit like heroin or nothing, but I was like right on that cusp. You know, I mean, I even remember the day I wanted to do heroin when we moved to Vegas, and I was trying to get some. And then that day that I was gonna get it, it just didn't work out, and I never did. Thank God. Particularly myself. I mean, I have a very addictive personality in the sense that if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna go all the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna drink
on either side of the spectrum, in greatness or in the
yeah.
negative stuff. Yeah.
Well, that was an extremely positive thing. Once I realized you can take that and point it in the positive direction.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this addictive personality can be great.
It can be a superpower.
It's just when it's bad. So that's why you see a lot of these drastic spins in people's lives when they choose to turn that or point their boat in a different direction. They're using that same energy that they had to point it in a negative one. And you know, you take the good and bad out of it and realize that everything is energy. Everything good that happens to you, everything bad that happens to you, it's energy. What are you going to do with it? And most of the time, we don't think we have a choice because like this is a bad thing, so I got to point it in a bad direction because you just feel that bad thing. But that's all on you. And once I realized that I'm the one that has the choice, like even though I didn't have say in all these awful things that happened to me, I have a choice on what I do with it. And once I realized like that I was the one making these decisions, I couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore and keep doing the same thing because I realized that I did have a choice. Where prior to that, it was everyone else's fault. Everything was these situations' fault. The things that happened to me, that like, this is why I'm this way because this happened to me, and that's understandably so. I'm going in this direction. So why shouldn't I?
Can you talk
as if everyone just have things handed to them?
Yeah. Can you tell the story about you being a teenager and your friend and up on the roof in that hole?
Yeah. So we moved to Vegas in 95. And then I had a really close group of friends. We were all partiers and drinkers, and we just hung out basically every day and got wasted. And that's just kind of the way it was. And one night my buddy Mo and I were up on his roof drinking and smoking weed. And he asked me what I wanted to do with my life. And, you know, that's a pretty strange question, I think, for any kid to ask, but particularly the group I was in. Like, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah. What are you, like 13, 14 years old or something like that?
Yeah. We're probably 15. But just that would seem like something you would ask someone that's going to school, doing well, right, like pushing themselves. Like, yeah, what do you want to do with all this? And we're over here,
Kevin. How are you going to change the world in your life?
Yeah. So that's what it was like him asking me. It was like some adult just came in, and it was so far out of left field. And for him too, to ask me that question, I still just it baffles me to think why he said that and why he asked me that. Yeah. So I was in shock for a minute. I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that question.
Yeah.
What do I want to do with my life? And then, I had never actually told anyone about this dream I had, or I wouldn't even necessarily call it a dream, but I was always fascinated with fighting. I loved martial arts. I loved Bruce Lee. I loved watching boxing fights. And I always thought about how great it would be to do, not great, just like how cool it was. I was like, oh man, I want to do that one day. Even just to go and train at a gym to me was like, would have been the most amazing, the coolest thing in the world. But it was so far from possible in my mind. You know, the realm of possibility was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, there's no way you're ever going to do that. And I just blurted it out. I told him, I was like, I want to fight one day. And I thought he was going to just die laughing, because I'd never told anyone. And to see me now, you'd think, oh yeah, that's normal. What's the big deal? But to know me back then, I was very small, very, very skinny, shy. I didn't speak ever. I mean, I'm a very quiet person now, but I'm like the loudest, most talkative person in the world compared to how I used to be.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say like 2 words a day, if that, you know, and again, just like that was so far from the way that I was and the person that I was. So I expected him to laugh at me, and he didn't laugh at me. And instead he said, I think you should do it. And just for that moment, I was like, well, in my brain, maybe it was like that realm of possibility. Like, just the fact that he said that, like, maybe I should do it. Like, you know, like, just, like, it was like 1% of possibility.
He just gave you permission. Like,
right. To even think about it.
To even think about it. Right.
Yeah. It's like he opened the door and he said, like, look in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know. I didn't know I could think about it. I didn't even know that was possible to think about it. And that was how he planted that seed in me of just the possibility, you know. It wasn't like he planted the seed of me doing. He planted the seed of the fact that it was possible to even attempt it, or to even think or dream about it. That was what he did. But from that, it was a momentary thing, and then it's like back to drinking, back to party, and forget about all that and never think about it again. But from that point forward, every time I would see a fight, it would spark that seed again. Like, hey, you know, you could go try it. Why don't you go try it? Why don't you go try it? But it was always, well, I'm too old. I thought I was too old when I was a teenager. You know, and just the lifestyle that I lived. I was like, what are you gonna do? Go and play around with this for a couple weeks, and what is really the point of that? Like, you're not gonna do anything with it. Even if you do go do it for fun, you're not gonna do anything with it. So it's almost like it was a waste of time. That's what I told myself.
Yeah,
it
right.
was. I rationalized. I made myself feel better for not going after this and really giving into fear, because it was all about fear. I was afraid that I wouldn't be good enough. I wouldn't be strong enough. People would think it was ridiculous. They'd laugh at me. And I'd fail anyway. So what's the point of going through all that for what? Like, what's the point? You want me to tell you this whole story?
Yeah, man.
About where that went to? Okay.
I think it's sad, man. But the reality is this is the stuff people need to realize, because it happens to so many people, and they don't take the cues. They don't take the life cues. And there's a why in the road. There's a why in the road, and they can have that choice, and they can go in a positive direction. But that's a fucking choice that you have to make. And I think you clearly paint that in that pain of having to do that. So anyways, continue. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, as you said, you have all these moments in your life where there's that fork in the road. When he planted that seed, I could have taken that and went with it.
Yeah.
But I buried it. And I'm like, I'm on this road. I can't get off this road. So even though you opened that door, I just kept on going past it. And I put it in the back of my mind. And every time fights would happen, it would flare up. And it was almost like I had to drown it even more each time. You know, it's like I had to suppress it down even further and further and further, because it was a painful reminder that I wasn't doing this, and I could if I chose to. So yeah, that almost encouraged me to drink that much more, to just distract myself that much more. And I did for years and years. And my buddy Mo, he was born with a heart defect, which I can't remember the name of it right now, but so he was in and out of hospitals his whole life, and that was just what we were used to. It wasn't anything weird whenever he was sick or in the hospital. That was just kind of the way he was. And we all knew that he needed to have a heart transplant eventually, or else he wasn't going to make it. But it was never something we really thought too much about, because we kind of figured he would, I guess, eventually get a heart transplant. It wasn't that serious of a thing in our minds. I think really we just didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
When I look back,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, you're gonna get it eventually. And he ended up in the hospital again, which like I said wasn't that abnormal of a thing. And then one day I remember my phone ringing, and they just said that he was gone. And when that happened, it was just another pivotal moment in my life where everything was just destroyed from a place that was already destroyed. It was like another layer, another tidal wave of destruction coming in that just like buried me. I was 18 when that happened. Yeah, and he was at 17, 18. So we were all around 17, 18 years old. Yeah, and then when that happened, it was just like the worst fucking thing of my life to that point. And that night, we all got together, my friends and I, and we were just getting hammered and trying to drink the pain away, you know, as we do when things like that tend to happen. And through my drunken coping, I had this epiphany. Like he didn't even get the chance to fail at a dream, and here I am, too afraid to even try, because I'm just scared. I'm using all these excuses. But my friend, he didn't even get to attempt it. You know, he didn't even get to do fucking anything. He fucking died. And that night I promised myself, I was like, I'm gonna go after this. Even if it's not for me, I'm gonna do it for him. I'm gonna live my life for the both of us from here on out, because I need to do that, because he didn't get to. I need to live his life for him, even if it's not for myself. You know, like fuck my life. I need to live his life for him. I need to do the things he didn't get to do. I need to use that energy and put it into something positive. That was my epiphany at the time. But I was also in the middle of drinking, you know. So wake up the next day and it was right back to same old shit. You know, right back to drinking every day.
It didn't stick initially.
No, it didn't stick. You know, it's kind of like when he said that, and when he planted those seeds, is like, I'm gonna do this, and then it's like, when you wake up the next day, like, oh yeah, but you know, this is going on, I'm not gonna make it, and there's like drowning yourself and burying that down deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you know, you bury it down so far, eventually you think it's gone. And I did. I thought it was gone. It kind of went away, and I never it never popped up again. And then, so like I said earlier about how I didn't think I was going to live very long. I had this date in my head that I wouldn't live to see the year 2000. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I thought maybe it was just because it was an even number, as a new millennium. I don't know. Something about it was like, you will never live to see this year. Either way, I didn't think I was going to live very long. So regardless, and I never did have any emotional connection to it. It wasn't something I was like, oh fuck, I'm never going to live very long. Just like, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
Just the, you know, I accepted
full acceptance of whatever lie you were telling yourself.
Yeah. And instead of saying, hey, you're not going to live very long, maybe you should do some positive shit in your life. It's like, hey, you're not going to live very long, so what's the point in doing anything?
Right.
It was just another excuse I gave myself not to go after things.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to live long enough to achieve it, so don't bother going after it. And then New Year, going into the year 2000, so what's that, December 31st, 1999, it was me, my buddy Joe, and my friend Pat. We're all in my friend Joe's. He had this souped up Mustang 5.0. He'd raced it like every fucking day. That was like his favorite thing to do. We were on the car, and this Corvette pulls up next to us. revving his engine. We were actually on our way to the New Year's party at the time. Revving his engine, so they take off. They're racing. I'm in the back seat drinking a 40. We're flying down the road, flying down. It was Boulder Highway in Las Vegas. So we smoked the dude. I look up ahead. There's a intersection, street light. You know, it's green at the time, and we're going, not thinking much of it. Then the light turns to yellow, and we had a long ways to go. So I didn't think much of it. But then I started realizing we're not. And this is obviously in seconds, but you know, it slowed down in my mind.
Yeah, right.
And I realized we're getting closer and closer, and we're not slowing down at all. And then all of a sudden I see the light go red. Then I see the cars start going through, and we're going right into this intersection. And I was like, this is it. This is that moment. This is your end of your life right here. Right before we go through the intersection, he hits a fucking right-hand turn. We go fishtailing into the intersection. I look out the back window, and there's this semi-truck plowing through, and his tires are spinning like they cannot catch traction. And this is getting closer and closer. And right before it hits us, we got the traction. We take off going down the road, you know. And on the moment, we're like, oh my God, that was fucking crazy. Like, not even like thinking about how fucking serious it was, but I knew that was the moment that I was supposed to die, and I wasn't supposed to be here anyway. And I looked back at the past, year, however long it had been since he had passed away, and I thought about how much of my life I had wasted. Not only in general, but from the point I told him in my head that I was going to start living my life for him. Like, you haven't done shit. Like, you've actually gone more in the other direction. And that was a giant wake up call for me. Not enough to necessarily like turn my life around the next day, but it was another one of those moments where it was like, you have a giant fork in the road and you didn't take it. And here's another example of you getting another chance. Like,
the universe is like, Kevin, look.
It's like banging on my fucking, and even that, it wasn't enough, but I started to go down. I started veering the boat a little bit. Like, I stopped. I used to drink and drive every fucking day, like, which I'm like so ashamed to admit looking back, but it was just, and it wasn't even like wasting, like stripping on the road. I could just drink and drive and be totally normal and fine. It was just, was just normal.
And you probably didn't even think anything of it. Didn't think
never,
about anybody else.
Not once.
Didn't think about any repercussions, just about yourself.
Yeah. I'm like, it'll be fine. Nothing's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And then that from that moment, I never drove drunk ever again. And because of that, and I never got in the car with somebody driving drunk ever again. So because of that, I stopped going out as much as I used to. So that already started toning down a lot of my partying. I mean, I was still drinking a lot, but I wasn't just like going out and getting wasted and, you know, till like 6 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah,
I started kind of going down that direction. And then through a successive, it was probably like 2 or 3 months, just the worst fucking things. Like, my friends were dying and going to jail, and that situation happened with me, almost dying. And it was again like getting hammered over the head. Like, you're gonna fucking die. You're gonna fucking die. What do you think you're fucking doing? And it got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore, you know. And I just had this wake up call and this epiphany one day. I was like, if Mo, who was my buddy, I was like, if he was still alive, he would beat the fuck out of you for wasting your fucking life. Not only for wasting your life, wasting the life you promised to live for him. You've been lying about going after this. And like, I promised you I'm going to live for you, and you're fucking dead. And now I'm still living the exact same, if not worse than I was.
I made that. You didn't learn
promise.
Shit.
I didn't learn that shit. No, you did the opposite of learn, because you had to almost go in the other direction to try to get away from the fact that you knew you were doing that. And yeah, one day it was just like, I can't ignore it any longer. And so this was that Oh yeah. So that car accident, almost car accident, was 2000, going right into 2000. And then this was almost 3 years later. So it was another 3 years from that almost fatal car accident to the point it took me to actually turn shit around. So that tells you how much that didn't fucking wake me up. But yeah,
Damn.
the going into 2003, that uh, it was like October, November, December. It was just like bad, fucking bad, like really bad shit was happening, and I just couldn't, I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, this is bad. This is all bad. Like
What was
nothing's
going
good's
on
coming
during
out of it.
what was going on during those 3 years, or that at the end of those 3 years? Like, what were you doing?
Just the same shit. I mean, I was still drinking every day. Again, I wasn't going out like I used um, to clubs and bars and stuff because I refused to drink and drive anymore and didn't. But I mean, that only limited it to a certain degree. I was like, oh, let's just party at the fucking house instead.
Yeah.
So it didn't slow anything down in that regard, but just enough to where I started getting a little bit closer or
Yeah.
less far away from the thing, and
Yeah.
started being able to see things a little bit more clearly. And then with that succession of more bad things happening, it got to that point when I just couldn't ignore it any longer. And so 2003, I made it my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna go after this, and I'm never gonna stop. I'm only gonna go in this direction from here on out. And that first week of January 2003 is when I got in the gym, and that was
Talk to me
it.
about your mental process. Did you already find a gym? Did you like what was that? Tell me the story
Well,
of you walking in there for the
yeah.
first time.
So actually, in '98, so what's that? 5 years prior, I had actually, you know, I let that dream kind of build up a little bit enough to I started calling gyms around.
Mhm.
I was like, all right, so I want to do this. So Muay Thai, and, even to this day, not everybody knows what that is. Muay Thai is the national sport of Thailand. So baseball in America is the national sport. In Thailand, it's fucking fighting, and it's Muay Thai,
Yeah, you go to
which
bars.
I
For
think
those
is
you
the
don't know, you go to bars and they have live amateur fights all the time,
fight
twenty-four
just,
seven.
just
Yeah,
every
every day.
day, all over the country. Um, and so I looked at the phone book, which we had phone books in those days. Pulled open the yellow pages, and so I'm like, all right, martial arts gyms, all right, and then which ones teach Muay Thai? Well, there was a handful that even said Muay Thai, right, and that which 90% of them were just teaching kickboxing, and they put Muay Thai on the door because nobody knows any fucking difference. So why wouldn't you put that on the door?
Yeah,
So a big thing for me was like, if I'm going to do this, even back then when I was 18, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right. I need to learn from the source. I need to learn from ties. Not even though like obviously Americans can teach it. It's like, if you can get it from the source, why wouldn't you?
yeah,
So I was like, I want to learn from ties. I need to take private lessons because I don't want to be in a class full of people who some want to fight, someone just there to fuck around, some are there for whatever other reasons. I kind of knew back then that this is, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all the way. So I need to go to the source. I need to be as focused as possible. And it's like, all right. So that kind of helped me narrow it down because there was only a handful of gyms that taught Muay Thai. And then within that, maybe 5 of those that even taught Muay Thai, only 2 of them offered um, private lessons, and only 1 of those had ties. So that helped me narrow it right down. I didn't even have to choose, it was like, that's it. I'm going to fucking go in there. So I actually did go to the gym. I talked to the trainer, kind of explained everything to me, but he also told me how expensive it was going to be to take one-on-one lessons from the coach. And I left there just like feeling I'm like, this is no fucking way I
and
can
this
do.
is
I
it.
can't. I
This
have no money.
this is in 1998, or is this in 2003?
Yeah. So this was in '98.
Oh, okay.
I was like so excited. I was so excited going there. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then when I found out that, I was like, you can't fucking do this. I'm like, what are you gonna do? Go train in the class with a bunch of fucking people? Like, you're never gonna make it. Like, at 18, I already felt too old to start. Like,
Yeah,
you're already so old, in the fighting realm.
Explain that really, because like these people that are doing this, when are they starting?
Yeah, so especially Muay Thai in Thailand, those kids start at 6 years old. I mean, their families basically give them over to the gym so they can grow up in the gym and they can make money fighting, and then they send that money back home.
Yeah.
So they live in the gym, so they take them from their homes wherever it is. I mean, because when you look in Thailand, I mean they're all in poverty, they're all farmers and workers and stuff. So it's like this is the only way my kid can even have a chance, is by sending them to these camps. So again, it is their culture, and they do start very young. But even here, when you think about boxing and the people that really make it, they start very, very, very early, so they can get into the amateur ranks and start getting that experience. And so to even think you have a chance of making it anywhere, you need to start relatively young. I mean, like 12, 13, you're already getting really close to the cutoff.
Yeah.
If you can do it like 8, 10, 12.
I mean,
right. I'm 18.
Any martial arts, like look at jiu-jitsu. Most of the guys that are like the best, they've been doing it since they were, young teenagers or before.
Yeah. And it just gives you another excuse and validates your reason for not going after it. Like, I can't make it because the only way to make it is to start early.
Yeah.
And I that's what I told myself. I was like, I'm already 18, so I'm relatively old. I can't afford to pay for these private lessons, which is the only chance I have.
Do you remember what it was? What the cost was?
It was probably, so I was like, all right, I need to train a couple times a week. I'm probably a couple grand a month, for, and then for an 18-year-old kid who doesn't have any money.
How much were you making back then?
Fucking like nothing, like hardly anything. I would do like odd jobs for my pops here and there. And but it was so out of my realm of being able to afford it. I was like, dude, just doing the classes alone, like I was barely even going to make that. I could make that happen. But then I walked. It felt like, I told myself, I'm like, you're just going to be throwing your money away. Like, you're never going to make it doing classes with everybody. That's not training. I knew back then that's not training for a fight. That's just going through the motions. So I left, and I was just like, it's never going to fucking, like, it's too late. It's too expensive. It's never going to happen. So when I did make that decision and going into 2003, I already knew where I was going to go. I was like, I went to the gym already. So that was helpful to already have that route planned out for myself. And the thing too was, going into 2003, so that right before New Year's, I was hanging out with my pops, drinking, and we were sitting down in his office, and he asked me the same fucking question my buddy Mo did. He's like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, fuck, what the fuck are you talking about? No. What he said, tell me something you've never told anyone before. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Tell something. And I was like, what? Like I killed somebody? Like I ran somebody over with my car and I haven't told anybody about that? Yeah. So I'm like, my brain, I'm like racking through these things. I'm like, what could I tell him that I've never told anyone before? And it was like, you want to fight? You want to fight? And I'm like, no, I can't fucking tell him that. I'm like, there's got to be something else. And I'm just sitting there and like time's painfully ticking away. And I'm like, not saying anything. I'm like, I have to fucking say something. And then I just kind of blurted under my breath. I'm like, yeah, I thought I want to fight. And he's like, what? You want to fight? What do you mean you want to fight? Like in the ring? I'm like, yeah, I want to fight. And I told him about what Muay Thai was, and I told him about telling Mo about it, and I was like, I always wanted to do this, and and he's like, and then I told him why I couldn't do it. I was like, it's too expensive, I'm too old, and I told him all my excuses, and he says, well, there's nothing I can do about all of those excuses you have, but if you agree to quit drinking and dedicate your life to this, I'll take care of your training. I'll sponsor you if you decide to turn your life around and go after this. I was like, deal. And I was drinking a 40 at the time. And, you know, in my head, I'm like, well, Monday, we'll start Monday. he's like, what about that drink in your hand right now? I'm like, well, you know, I almost wanted to argue with him for a minute. Like, well, we're already drinking. Like, why? You don't need to stop right now. I can
Diet
start
starts
tomorrow.
Monday, Dad.
Yeah. But yeah, I already knew back then that mentality of like, you want to do something, you start now. You don't wait until, you don't start Monday. You start whatever today is, you start fucking today. And I dumped my 40 out in the sink he had in there. And then that first week of January, I got started.
What was that like? Well, you were what, 23 or something like that?
I was, yeah. So I turned 23 July of 2003. So this is January. So it was like 6 months before my birthday. It was exciting, man. It was so exciting, except I was so nervous too, and completely out of my element. I mean, I've always been really athletic my whole life. Always played sports and stuff, but I hated team, just that team mentality of things. I'm like, I can fucking bust my ass, work my ass off, and you can half-ass it, and then we fucking lose. So I never really liked that vibe of team sports. I really hated that jock mentality. And again, being like really poor and being around, you know, it becomes that kind of thing. You view people a certain way.
Yeah.
You view athletic people a certain way. They get a certain amount of benefit from being athletic and from being the star athlete. And, you know, that always turned me off to it. Although I was one of those people that could always cross over through all the groups of people, from the jocks to the punks to the smart kids. I was friends with everybody. I was that kind of person who could dip my toes in everybody's pool, and it wasn't that strange of a thing. But I was very much in the outcast punk rocker, skateboarder. That was like my crew. So that first day going in, so I started just doing private lessons. I actually didn't even start doing the classes till much later on. So my first session was with my coach, and he's like, all right, we're going to start on Monday, 6 a.m. I'm like, 6 in the fucking morning? Like, why? why? Can't we, like, why can't we do it, man? I mean, I didn't ask him why. It just seemed like,
this is what you were
I guess this is what I got to fucking do now. This is some bullshit. Yeah. And it was January in Vegas. And, you know, compared to most places, January in Vegas ain't shit, but it's still relatively cold. And the gym we were in had no heat. It had broken windows. Like, it was a total fucking shithole. You know, it was fucking freezing in there.
So it's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. It was perfect. I fucking love it. I hate nice gyms with a passion because of that. Cause I'm just like, I love the old school grindy. Like, if you want to be here, you want to fucking be here. Like, there's no other reason to be here.
But see, you know that now, but yeah,
coming up. Yeah. I was like, damn, this is fucking cold. And and then the first time I like kicked pads, I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, it was so fucking painful. And again, being so cold, never kicking things before, it just felt like you're kicking concrete. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is awful. But I was so excited, and I was so driven, you know, because of that, because I knew what that other direction came with.
Yeah.
So I didn't care how hard this was going to be, how painful this was going to be, how many doubts or fears that I had. It, in a way, took that debate out of my mind, where like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, that doesn't fucking matter. I am doing this. I am going this direction. It doesn't matter how hard it is. It doesn't matter how difficult or painful it is. It doesn't even matter where you're even going to make it to. Like, you're going to fucking do this. And you're going to keep doing this, and you're going to do everything in your power to do this. So I was singularly focused from day one. That was the only reason I was there. There's a lot of people, even a lot of fighters, that they don't necessarily start out with that intention of, the only reason that I'm doing this is to get into the ring. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get in the ring as soon as I can. Everything that I can do, every moment of the day, every thought in my mind is about getting in the ring, and I'm going in that direction. So I was so focused and driven from that point. So everything to me was great. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything was like, this is exciting. It was such a new realm of life for me to be in and to explore. And yeah, it was exciting.
Did you struggle
and
with
scary.
struggle with quitting drinking and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff when you first started?
I didn't, my training, what for me was my rehab.
Yeah.
It wasn't, there wasn't, again, it takes that, for me, it took that debate out of it. Like, oh, this is difficult. Like, yes, so it's fucking difficult. Like, get your fucking ass to work.
Yeah.
Like, it was never even oh, I want to go drink. I don't want to fucking, even if my body wants to drink, it's like, I don't want anything to fucking do with that. That if I even look in that direction, I'm going to fucking die.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to die. You're going to kill people. Everything over there is horrific and awful and bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just wasn't, there wasn't an option. There's no option in my mind. There was, not to say it wasn't difficult. It's just, there wasn't that option. There wasn't even a thought about it. It wasn't even a, maybe I might drink one, it wasn't, there's nothing. It was a non-factor because of that. I just made that choice. And I think when you do that, it simplifies it. It doesn't make it easier because obviously it's really hard, but if you know that's not a choice in your life,
it makes your choices simpler.
Yeah. And when you can simplify it in that regard, it does make it easier because it's a left or right. It's an on or an off. There isn't a in between here where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go a little bit and then I'm gonna go back. Like, you can't go there because once you're there, you're there.
Did you ever hear the story of I think it was the British rowers? Mark, I think it's what it was. The story Kirk told about it was British rowers, the rowing team, and I guess they sucked. Like, I don't know the full story exactly, but I guess they sucked, and they were like, they wanted to win a gold medal in the Olympics. And so they basically, I don't know if it was the coach or the team, or I don't know who made this decision, but they changed their decision-making process to everything. Does it get them closer to the gold medal or not? Everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, every decision in their life.
Yeah.
Does this get me closer to the gold medal, or does it take me away from it? So drinking, partying, going out after a game, like training, what they eat, what they did with their time, everything revolved around that. So they said all of a sudden they had a lot less choices in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
then do that. I mean, without.
And then they ended up getting a gold medal, and that was that's the story. Is like, how did you get a gold medal? Is like, well, we simplified our process. And I think there was some coach that just recently got did I don't know, I think he's a football coach that kind of went viral for saying that, like, you want to be great, you have less choices. That's it.
Yeah, without question, and that's the exact thing that I did. Is this thing, whatever it is, going to get you closer or farther away? And there is no in between. So if I look at that debate of, oh, I'm just going to go and have one drink, is that one drink really going to harm my fight? Probably not. It's probably not going to fucking do anything. It's probably going to make no difference whatsoever. But is it going to help? Definitely not. It's definitely not going to help. And if you look at it in that lens, it's either one or the other. You're either getting better or you're getting worse.
See, I look
it's
at
either
it
helpful or it's harmful.
I even look at it even more serious as it's one drink, but so is one cancer cell. Cancer starts with one cell. That's all it starts with. Mm-hmm. And that one cell eventually grows to fucking kill you. So it's one drink. It's one sleep in. It's one cheat meal. It's one whatever. You know what I mean? But that one, the power of that one can also be a huge negative,
Yeah. And that, I started to apply that to every aspect of my life. Is this helping me or is this hurting me? And as you said, you start to simplify those choices, and it makes it easier in that regard, because there are no choices. It's either this or it's this. It's not this whole realm of, well, we're going to do a little bit of this, we're going to do that. And then I started doing that with my training. I started doing that with my diet. I started doing that with my lifestyle choices. I did that with everything. So everything that I did was, is this helping me get into the ring? Is this helping me be the best fighter that I can be? Is this helping me be the healthiest that I can be? Is this helping me be the most focused I can be? And all those aspects of life I put into that question, left or right, good or bad. And that made the path that much clearer. And when it's clear, it seems possible. Because when it's not, it's very foggy. If it seems far away, it seems impossible. But you start to strip away those things that aren't helping, and then the path starts to open up. You start to see the realm, or the direction that kind of goes. Like, you don't have to see it perfectly, but you start putting the light onto that pathway, and blocking out all those other negative things. And the more that we do that's how you are successful in anything. You start to, is this helping my whatever your thing is, your relationship, your job, your talent, your health? Is this thing helping you? It's pretty easy to figure out if something's helping or hurting you.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you start to apply that to everything. You want to know how to be successful? Start doing that. Start to figure it out. It's like, how do I figure out what I want to do with my life? Well, start to figure out what you don't want to fucking do. That's pretty fucking easy to do.
That's good.
I was fortunate to realize those things very early on in life. I knew what I didn't fucking want very, very much. And I unfortunately started.
Yeah.
I started running the other direction. I was like, I don't want any part of this fucking thing you guys got going on over here. I see what it goes to. I see what it leads to. It might seem nice on the surface, but I see what you sacrifice and give up and the type of people you turn into. I don't fucking want that at all. I'm going fucking over here. I don't know what's over here, but I know I don't want to be over there with that shit.
Right.
So I started running the other direction. But the other direction has bad too. So you gotta start going the other direction. Just point it toward the positive side of the other direction, not the negative side. Because every aspect of life has positive and negative. It's like the extreme side of anything, even positive, is negative. Like the extreme side of health is negative. There's a balance and a flow to everything in life. There's a yin and a yang to everything in life. And unfortunately, we don't understand that. It's so easy to demonize certain aspects of life. It's so easy to demonize other people, other thought processes, races, religions, whatever it is, because you can always point to the negative side of fucking anything in this life you want to. It's the easiest thing in the world to point out the negativity of somebody else.
Did you have that same process, or how did you maintain that process through losses and injuries and things like that? Because you had a couple hard hits, and did you ever get that pull of like, fuck this, I'm gonna go grab a bottle, or did you say, no, I fucking take it on the chin and keep on moving? Like, how in your brain, how did you process that?
Yeah, well, that was it was that first fight again, where after that loss and just getting stomped out, I'm like, man, maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe every reason I had not to do this I was right, and I shouldn't have done this. Because when I did start, I picked that shit up like I'd been doing this my whole fucking life. Like, this is it, man. You should have been doing this, and you got the afterburners on. You're going to skyrocket to the top. I was picking it up like so fast. And I was so focused and driven that I was just like lapping people that had been doing it as long. I'm like, this is like, I'm going to be right there with everybody right away. And so in my head, I thought, this is the way that it is when you turn your life around. This is the way that it is when you start doing things in a positive way. Start living your life out of passion and stop giving into fear and doubt. And then I got crushed. I got stomped out. My first fight, I'm like, fuck, man. Like, maybe I was fucking delusional. Because again, it's like when everything's going well, you think that's the way it's going to be forever. Right. And then you have that wake up call. And for myself, I was very fortunate to happen that first day, because that is where you're going to find out what you're made of, and if this is what you really want to do. Do you really want to do this? And what are you willing to go through? What are you willing to sacrifice? And what are you willing to push yourself through in order to have this? And I had that moment. I mean, it was probably like a day, maybe two, after that fight where I was completely crushed and devastated. And every doubt and fear I had ever had came back with a vengeance. It was almost worse than before, because it was almost a signifying thing of you were right to have those doubts.
Yeah.
You know, it almost made them real, because now it's like, now I know
it validates your fears. Yeah, your all your fears and all your doubts. It validates them.
Yeah. So I was like that. I felt that there was validity in all those feelings I had, and now I fucking know. This is why. This is what happens. This is what happens when you try. This is what happens when you try to do things right in your life. And then I had that realization of, are you only going to do this when you're winning? Are you only going to do this when things are going well? Fuck no. I fucking love this shit. And maybe I can't be the best in the world. Hell, maybe I can't even be the best in this fucking gym. But I don't know how good I'm ever going to be if I stop now. I'll never know where I can make it to.
Yeah.
And it's like, by quitting, you're guaranteed to be a failure.
Yeah.
You might not make, and once I stopped looking at it as, it's not success or failure. Like, there's a fucking broad spectrum in there. Like, start to go in that direction. You don't know how far you're going to make it. You want to set your sights on the top for sure. But if you don't make it to that 1%, are you a failure? Because you're still light years beyond where you fucking were before.
Right.
And I was so fortunate to have that realization and go through that failure or that loss right away. Because I saw what happens when you don't, and when you keep winning and winning and winning and winning, because eventually it's going to happen. Eventually something bad's going to happen. Even if it's not a loss, something is going to happen that's going to make you question everything. And if you don't know those answers, eventually you're going to have to figure them out. And what you don't want to have happen is you gave 10 years of your life to something that you didn't even really want to be doing to begin with. Like, figure that out the day one. That's why the hardest and the best way to learn is to throw yourself into the deep end. You know, like, chuck yourself off the cliff. Can you fly? Great. Or you're going to fucking die. So it's like a lot of things in my life. When I look back, I actually did that. It was like the first time I ever went snowboarding. I went to the top of a double black diamond. I was like, I'm going to learn how to snowboard by the time I get down to the bottom, or I'm going to fucking die. And that's what I fucking did.
You're fucking crazy, man.
It's like the first time I ever played hockey was a week after I'd ever put skates on in my entire fucking life. The first time I ever
that had to have been funny as hell to watch.
I actually never learned how to stop properly. I used to just smash into the boards because I was like, I don't need to fucking stop, dude. I'll just hit something. And I played for like 3 years, and I never really learned how to stop.
So that first fight, was that the only fight you lost?
So that was the only amateur fight I lost. I won every single amateur fight I had from that point on.
And what about
then I lost my second pro fight.
Yeah.
So I lost my first one, and it's like, fuck, you have that question down. Like, all right. And then I started going, I was like, I'm going to go for it and go do it. And then that just motivated me to push myself that much more. And so I ended up winning all the rest of my amateur fights. And then my first pro fight, which was this crazy fucking war, I ended up winning that. And then my second one, I actually took a fight on, it was like 24 hours notice.
Shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming up in Muay Thai, you just have to take what you can get, whether it's amateur or pro, particularly back then. There are no opportunities. So you have to, if you hope to ever make it anywhere, you have to just take what you
get in the ring. Yeah.
And like, and that's just the kind of the way we came up, that Thai mentality of like, yeah, wins and losses, like it's all about experience at the end of the day. You know, they're fucking hilarious when it comes to like losing and stuff, because they'll give each other like the hardest times. Like you'll be in the gym, somebody lost, got knocked through, like, oh, this is you last night. Just rag on each other, but it's like that keeps you honest, and it kind of takes that mysticism away from like being undefeated or whatever. And that's just kind of not the thought or the mentality when it comes to Muay Thai. You don't put it in that.
It's not their it's not their culture.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I won all my amateur funds. I won my first pro fight, and then my second pro fight, I took that fight on 24 hours notice, and the dude was like 30 pounds heavier than me. I have this problem because I have like that little dog like I don't know how small I am. I think I'm your size in my brain. Or, you know, I think like obviously I'm smaller, but I don't realize how much smaller I am than you, you know. So I was like, I remember like I weighed in this guy. I'm like, yeah, he's bigger than me. But the other thing too is every single person I train with, the smallest guy that I trained with was 20 pounds heavier than me. That was the smallest guy I trained with. So I'm like, it's normal to me. Like I don't even know, like somebody my size is like a little baby in my mind. So then when it's like, yeah, you want to fight this guy? I'm like, yeah. And I did that all through my amateur career too. It's just like you fight whoever you can, whenever you can. And so I never even like, it wasn't even a minute thought in my mind. Like this guy's fucking huge and he's going to kill you. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking fight. We're gonna go to town. And he fucking knocked me out real quick. Well, they stopped me. I didn't even go down. He just like caught me in the corner and was pounded on me. Like it was like a minute. But the thing was,
the whole fight was a minute?
Back, I'm like, it was like a minute and a half probably. Yeah.
Oh shit.
And the thing was like, I went at this guy as if we were the same size. You know, so like an intelligent person that's fighting somebody huge, you're fighting a little more defensive, a little safer. You're trying to gas him out. Like I fucking like the way that I fight is like, I'm just going to go at you. And I went at him and he was like,
you just batter ran.
I ran right into this cross. He was like, beep, and I'm a boom. And I'm fucking like stumbled back to the corner. He's like, bam, 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 bam. Bam, fucking. And then, yeah. So then after that loss, and again, it's like, I'm like, well, he was this much bigger. I'm like, to me, it's just, you fucking lost the fight. It doesn't matter how good the person is. It doesn't matter how much experience they have over you.
So at that point in your career, you just took it on the chin and said, whatever, moving on.
No. I had that same kind of thing again. Like I had my very first fight. I'm like,
damn, really,
man. Yeah, it was much quicker, but there's still that. Your
bounce back was quicker.
Yeah, and the other thing too for me that was very difficult at that time was I couldn't get fights. So it was really hard to get fights. And there was always that draw of like almost every single person I trained with was fighting in the UFC. They were fighting in the Pride. They were all doing MMA. You know, everybody switched to MMA. I was one of the only people that stuck with Muay Thai. And I was like, I fucking love this so much. But I couldn't get any fights. It was so hard for me to get fights. And all my friends are in those organizations, they're like, why don't you just switch to MMA? We can get you a fight fucking today. And I was like, and again, I've never been somebody that wants to have one foot in two arenas. It's like, if I'm gonna be an MMA fighter, I'm gonna be a fucking MMA fighter. I'm gonna stop doing Muay Thai and I'm gonna be the best MMA fighter I can be. So it was never I'm gonna do both. I don't want to be half-ass at both. You know, it's like, if I want to be the best at the thing that I do. So that kept me from ever crossing that bridge. But going into 2009, like 2008 was probably the hardest time I had like, I think it was close to 30 fights fall through, if you can believe that. I couldn't get any fights. Even when I'd give up weight, when I'd fight in a different discipline, I just couldn't get fights. And it was so difficult for me. I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I don't even get to do the thing that I want to do. I don't even get to do the thing that I'm sacrificing so much for. Why don't you just fucking switch? Like, just fucking switch. But it was like, I love this so much. For me, Muay Thai is night and day above everything else. Like I love any kind of fighting. Like I'd fight fucking anything you put in front of me, but Muay Thai, it like speaks to my soul. You know, it's like it's like that love of your life.
Yeah.
Like you can't really explain it to somebody
it's
else. Like it's
your
just
passion. Yeah.
it's my fucking passion, man. Like, and anything else, I feel like I'm lying. Like I'm just doing this because I like to fight. It's fun. Like, but it's not what drives me. You know, it's not what I live for. So that was really tough. And then going into 2009, I made it my New Year's resolution going into 2009. It's like, I'm going to give Muay Thai one more year. I'm going to push it as hard as I can. If by the end of this year, things haven't picked up, then I'm going to make that fucking switch. Cause I'd rather fight anything than not fight at all.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, a week after New Year's, I got a call to go fight in China for the WBC title on like a week and a half notice. And I was like, all right, let's fucking go. And then I went over there, had this crazy war with a Chinese kid over there and snapped my ankle. And they actually fucking robbed me over there. And then we ended up having a rematch. I had to rehab my ankle, and then we had a rematch in Vegas. And then I won 4 titles that year.
In 2009?
It was like the greatest. Yeah.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
I won 2 WBC titles. I don't even remember what the other organizations were, but yeah, so things picked up. And then from that point, things progressed and got bigger and better. And yeah, fortunately kind of worked out for me.
So when you got, I want you to tell, if you're okay with telling the story, I think it was a world title where you got hurt prior to, you went into the fight hurt.
Yeah. The Lion Fight world title. That was actually my first world title.
Was it? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I think the reason why I want you to tell that story is because, so I recently shared a story when I was young. I was probably 19, 20 years old. And I didn't have the experience under my belt like I do now of weathering the storm, right? And I had done some hard. I grew up hard, you know, like you've heard my story, and but I let an injury get the better of me, and it was in a martial arts course in the Marine Corps. This was in 2000, I think, and 2001, and anyways, I basically, in my terms, bitched out of the final exercise. So I had done this like 3-week grueling course, and I had 2 cracked ribs. My ear got basically ripped off, so they had to sew it back together. And the reality is, all I had to do was show up. I mean, I showed up, but show up at the FTX and just fucking go through it at whatever ability I had, right? But I let that pain, and I let that that doubt of me completing, and I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I'm fucked up. You know what I mean? I can barely breathe, this and that. And then I hear your story, and I'm like, what the fuck? And but I mean, obviously, those things happened. Those same things happened to me in combat. Those things happened to me later down in life that didn't have the same effect. But that was a good lesson for me. That was a brilliant. And I never had told that story, and a business partner brought it up, and he goes, dude, I'm so sorry. Afterwards, he's like, I totally didn't mean to put you on the spot publicly, because we did a public thing with our coaching group, and I'm like, fuck. So I just told the story, and then after I told the story there, I made a video publicly talking about it, about hardship. But anyways, I think it's important because I think we sell ourselves short of what our human capability is.
Oh yeah.
And
all the fucking time we do.
And you kind of showed that with that. So anyways.
Yeah. And then to your point, we often, especially when we have accomplished things, when we have gone through diversity and extremely difficult situations, we kind of naturally, our brain says, oh, I'm a strong person now.
Yeah.
As if you're just there for the rest of your fucking life.
Right.
You know, so it's like sometimes you'll go through like the worst injury ever, and then you assume a smaller injury won't be as devastating.
Right.
Where sometimes it's fucking worse because your brain thinks, oh, this is easy. And then you fail. So it's an unending process for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You're not just a strong person. It's choices every day, every moment, every second you have. And the more you recognize that, the stronger you will be, instead of waiting for those times to happen. Like, now I need to be strong. You need to be strong. You can never be weak.
Ever.
Anyway, so I was training for my first world title. I believe this was 2015. I don't remember the year. Anyway, so I'd won a bunch of international titles, national titles, all that, but I never had my shot at the world title. And then this was actually after I had blown my knee out, blew my ACL out, had come back from that, built my way back up the ranks. So I'd gone through like hell to get back to this point, all that adversity, all those trials. And then like, finally, now I brought myself back up to where I was prior to the injury in the world stage. I got my chance at a world title. It's going to be in my hometown in Vegas. It's going to be on national TV. All these fucking people are going to be there. Like Joe Rogan was there. And like, it was a big fucking deal. And especially for me, like, this is the peak of everything that I've been working towards for 15 years of my life. Everything that I gave up, everything I sacrificed, everything I went through, I fucking made it to the show. Like, this is it. This is my time, and I'd never felt better, stronger, more focused, more disciplined. Everything in training had just couldn't have been better. I mean, every moment, there wasn't a moment where I was just like, oh fuck, or like, dealing with like the lulls and training, or, you're just kind of sick of it. It was just like, I was just so driven. I was ready to go. And everything was responding. My body was responding right. My mind, everything was perfect. And that alone should have been a giant red flag. Like,
Right, yeah.
Something fucking bad's going to fucking happen any minute, but it was also one of those things where I had been through so much. I'm like, maybe finally I get a fucking break and I don't like bust my hand a week out or what, like, cause I had gone through so many really awful injuries, going into fights with awful injuries, sicknesses, fighting with pneumonia, fighting with a broken hand, fighting with a fractured skull. So I'd gone through the fucking ringer so much more than most. I mean, you think about just a fighter in general, like, you're going to go through some shit. I was at such a higher level of going through injuries and adversity. I don't know what it was. I was just like, I couldn't get away from it. It was always something, but it was like, it's a fucking test. Like, because you're so far behind, like, you need to be tested more to be that much stronger. Yeah. So I always viewed those really difficult things as, anytime something bad would happen, I'd be like, all right, there's a test. There's a test, and it's an opportunity that nobody else has. You can use this to pivot up to the top ranks just by going through this, by not letting this break you. Yeah. So I had learned those lessons over and over and over. I mean, 15 years of trials like that. And anyway, like I said, I was training for this fight for 2 months, and then it was I think it was like 2 weeks out. No, yeah, it was 2 weeks out from the fight. My buddy Chaz, who I'd always fly out to train with me, because he was one of my main training partners coming up. So anytime I had a big fight coming up, I would fly him out for a couple weeks because he was the only person that really kept me sharp and on point. Because one, he's really big. He's the guy that's 20 pounds heavier than me, and he's really good. Where a lot of people that I was training with at that time, I was helping them build that up. They were kind of below me, even though some of them were bigger than me. They didn't challenge me in that way where I have to be on point or I'm going to get fucking hurt.
Yeah.
Like anybody else was like, I could dick around if I wanted to. So I had to intentionally keep myself sharp, or else I could get away with a lot, and so I would always bring him out, because he's like, he's going to let you know if you're on point or not.
He put the pressure. He put the pressure on you.
He will fucking, like, he has no off switch, and like, he don't give a fuck what is happening. It's like, I'm here to fucking beat your ass. He's like my best friend, but
yeah,
I think he almost holds himself accountable to that. It's like, I have to fuck you up as much as possible to make you better.
Yeah,
like, he knows that. So I always knew that bringing him in. So I had him out, and then one day I threw a kick. He moved out of the way and then fucking blasted me in the fucking back with a kick. And as soon as he hit me, I felt this pop and I dropped to the fucking ground, just rolling around in fucking agony. And I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I was taking these just, I couldn't even take a breath. And then finally I was able to get back up to my feet, and I looked down at my stomach and my ribs were pressing out underneath my skin, like really, really just warped, like sticking out underneath my chest. And I was like, oh, fuck, dude. Like, what the fuck is that? I don't know what the fuck happened. I knew it was bad. I was like, I don't know if it's broken or what. And I like pressed my fucking ribs back in and wrapped this strap around me to hold them in place. And went home, like laying in bed. I'm still trying, barely able to.
You didn't even go to the hospital or anything? You just went home?
No, I didn't. I was like, oh, I mean, maybe it's like, walk it off, you know? But, you know, I mean, that's the, again, the kind of the mentality, like, yeah, I came up that because, you know, it's like when you're poor, you don't ever go to the fucking doctor.
No, hell no.
You know, unless you're dead
or you're
unless
dying,
like a bone's sticking out. Yeah. So one, that was just my mentality when it comes to injuries and sickness. Is like, fucking dude, walk that shit off, or go home and fix your shit.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So I just went home, you know, kept my ribs strapped up, and I had to, I couldn't lay down because it was just in agony, and I couldn't sit up. So I had to like lay in bed at this like 45-degree angle, and I'm taking these short labored breaths. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the worst shit ever. So it was like 2 days of that. And I'm just like, how the fuck am I have a fight. I have a world title fight in less than 2 weeks.
Nobody knew, right?
And I can't.
Did anybody know this had happened?
No. Yeah. No. Well, like my coach knew, and obviously my sparring partner knew, but nobody on the outside knew.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was just like, how the fuck am I? Like, I can't even take a breath right now. Mm-hmm. How am I gonna keep training? Because I still got 10 days or whatever it was. And then, even if I can make it to the fight, he's gonna hit me one time, and I'm gonna go down. Like, even if it's not even hard, I'm gonna go down just from the impact.
Yeah.
There's no way. Like, I couldn't touch it without dropping to the ground in fucking agony. And then I did go to the doctor the next day. And so what happened was I had it's called the intercostal tear. So it's basically a tearing of the muscles that hold your ribs together and allow you to breathe correctly. So that was torn. And he was like, I was like, well, how long does it take to heal? Like 4 to 8 weeks. I'm like, all right. I mean, I didn't tell him I had a fight coming over.
Yeah.
I knew it. I dealt with enough doctors, but at that point, and I usually don't even mention the fact that I fight, because most of them are like, why do you do that shit? Like, you should stop. You're too old. And yeah, so I was like, all right. And then, you know, left, because, you know, it kind of basically told me, it's like, there's no way to heal it except for rest. Like, you have to rest. You can't move. Like, you can't even work out because while you breathe, it's like your rib cage is moving in and out, and so that keeps it from solidifying.
Yeah, you're tearing it more, keeping it from healing, right?
Yeah. So then I'm like, well, how am I going to even train if I can't push myself? Like, I have to breathe. I need to be able to breathe hard and take big gulps of breath. But again, it was one of those things, looking back through all the injuries I've ever had, it was just like, it doesn't matter. And none of that matters. Are you going to do this or aren't you? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Like, are you going to do this? Yes or no? Make a fucking choice right fucking now. There's no fucking debate. You're either going to suck it up and go in there injured. And that was another thing. It was like, well, I could postpone the fight. I could, you know, for another month or two down the road, which would have been totally fine and normal and understandable. People get injured all the fucking time and do that. But one, for me, it's like, you could postpone it and then the fight could never happen. You could get injured again. He could get injured again. All kinds of stuff. There's numerous things that could happen by postponing. But you could also go in there and he could hit you one time and you could be fucking down. And then it's like you're losing, not because he was better than you, because you went in there at 10%.
Yeah.
So how do you make that choice? What are you going to do? Because a smart, rational person be like, yeah, obviously you're going to postpone for 2 fucking months and be healthy. Why would you go in there like that? You can't even fucking breathe. But for myself, it's always been that there's no point. There's nothing that could happen that would keep me from going into this ring. Because where do you draw that line? You draw a line at the injury, a sickness, a bad day. There's always a reason not to go forward. Like if you want a reason not to do something, there's fucking plenty of them, real or imagined.
Right.
And
You'll come up with it.
Yeah, it's fucking easy. And I guess for myself, it's always been, where do you draw that line? I don't fucking draw that line. If I'm breathing, then I'm gonna get in that fucking ring, even if they pick me up and place me in that fucking ring. And having done that so many times, that clearly helped. But each time, it's almost like it never happened. It's just another gigantic. It's night and day different than any other injury. It's another thing. It's another point in your life. It's whatever. I mean, like they're not comparable really,
right?
But the choice is comparable. Knowing that you have that choice is, and the more that you do it, the more you can't ignore the fact that you have a choice. You know, you got a fucking choice. Like, are you going to do this or not? And if you don't have to, but know that you did have that choice to make. And again, for myself, it's like, there is no fucking choice. I'm going to fucking do this, because who's to say I don't have the best fight of my fucking life just because I'm injured? Who's to say I can go in there 100% and I just get caught with something stupid? Like, there's no formula to this shit.
There's no guarantee.
There's no
way.
guarantee.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee either way. Everything can be the best it can be, and you can do the worst, just like everything can be the worst, and you can be the best. That's why so many times when I have those days where I don't want to go, I use that as like, this might be the best day of your fucking life.
Yeah.
This might be the best fight of your life. This might be the best training session of your life. And the more times you do that, the more you realize, even if it's not great, typically it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. You're going to do a lot better than you thought. And that's something you develop over time and continually making those choices. So yeah, I made that fucking, I was like, I'm not postponing this, because it's like,
when in the injury did you make that decision that you weren't postponing? Like how
So basically my coach was like, if your fucking rib is broken, I'm not letting you fight. I don't care what, because he knows me. He's like, I'm gonna fucking go in there. I'm gonna fucking fight, man. So he knew that he would have to take that out of my decision hands. So
yeah.
I was going to do it regardless. Like there was that debate in my mind, like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do this. I'm like, dude, don't be a fucking bitch, dude. Like that's always my, I always have that voice in my head. Anytime I want to quit, it's like, dude, don't be a bitch. And that always gets me like, yeah, you are being a fucking bitch right now. Even if it's understandable, obviously it's understandable, but you're being a fucking bitch. So, unfortunately it wasn't broken, it was torn, and again, it was the worst shit ever, but I was like, I'm fucking doing this shit. Yeah. And just getting ready for the fight, that last week and a half was fucking hard, man. Like trying to run and do all my sprints, and I couldn't spar anymore really, but I still had to do, like, I could do pad work, but I could only kick with one side because the opposite side rotated it and opened my ribs up. So it was like everything was, I don't remember if it was my left or my right side that I could use, but I was like one-sided the whole time. And then still every day, like I'm training, it's like I could just envision him hitting me. Like my body will drop on its own. Like it's not going to be a conscious thought. Like it's just going to be a switch, like touch, don't.
Yeah.
And then, your brain's like, everyone around is going to think he fucking like hurt me and knocked him. I'm like, it's not like I can hold up a sign that says, hey, I'm injured. If I go down, it's not what you think it is. But yeah, so I kept my preparation going as much as, more than I could. I still did all the shit I normally do. I did all my sprints. That was probably the hardest thing. Trying not to breathe correctly while you're doing sprints, and minimize how far your rib cage is. Like that was fucking like the worst shit. I mean, eventually I was like, dude, I don't fucking care if it hurts. I need to breathe, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm gonna fucking just do it. And it was real. I mean, most of the times with injuries and stuff, it's like when I'm done training, like going to bed and waking up in the morning was just fucking agony, man. It was awful. It was just horrific. And then when you're training, you just can't think about that shit. So you turn that switch off.
Yeah.
But as soon as that last bell, bing, you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm fucking dying. Yeah. And then going in like the warm up, and then I actually have a photo of it, like right before I'm about to walk out. I'm kneeling down on the stairs. There's like this blue light, and it was just that. And it's something I always have prior to a fight. It's like, it doesn't matter how good or bad the preparation was. It doesn't matter what injuries you have. It doesn't matter who you're facing. You have to accept those things and just let it go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good or bad your training was. None of that matters. Once you get to that point, all that is irrelevant now. Mm-hmm. And you just have to let go of it. Mm-hmm. You have to let go of everything that's in the past, and you have to be completely living in that moment, which is one of the greatest things I think about fighting or anything extreme. You're never more present than you are in those situations. And I mean, obviously, in a military situation, but anything that connects you to the right now is one of the most
you're not thinking about all the extra bullshit in your life. You're thinking, because that's going to catch you. You are 100%.
Yeah, you're not thinking about anything.
No,
it's almost as if thoughts aren't. It's just feelings. There's no thoughts anymore.
Yeah,
and you're there. And when that switch hits, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then we went out there, and the first thing he fucking does is kicks me right in the fucking ribs. The very first.
I don't remember you telling me that.
I'm like, no, I didn't. I was like, and like in my head, I'm like, you motherfucker. I can't fucking believe you just did that. But I didn't fucking affect me whatsoever. I didn't feel it. And I ended up having probably the best performance of my entire career, and got that world title around my waist. And it was just another, I mean, it was probably the biggest, moment as far as like the worst injuries, the biggest stage, the biggest of everything all at once. I have a lot of singular moments of like the hardest fight I ever fought, or another injury like a skull fracture, but the combination of the elevation of all those aspects have never been that high. And then to perform the way that I did and go through it. It's not like it was a fucking easy fight. Like, that motherfucker is a fucking scrapper, man. And he's a fucking badass.
The video, which I don't know, Mark, you're going to put the video while we're talking, probably be a good idea. That video, I mean, I was just, you can't even imagine that you were dealing with that injury if you look at it.
Yeah.
Because you just,
So
you seemed like you were
nobody
on fire.
Knew.
You seemed like you were absolutely on fire.
Yeah. And I always, again, I view those things as, you have to push yourself so much farther past that point. So when you go and it's like when you face an opponent that's so far out of your realm of skill level, you have to elevate your game.
Yeah.
When you're going into something already injured, you have to elevate your game.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, I mean, if
you can obviously let somebody, if you want, like, if you're going to do it, the only way to do it and be successful is you have to go so far above what you think is possible.
Yeah.
That realm of possibility, and you raise your level like that and continue on small scales. That was a big scale, but even the small things that we do is you raise your level of what you can tolerate, how good, how strong, how smart, if you want to continually raise that point, you have to go past what your brain and your body and your heart thinks you can do. You have to go past that. And then you get there, and then like, this seems normal now. And then you go past there again. And that was just a giant leap up from where I was, what I thought was possible. And, looking back, I was very fortunate. And at the same time, somebody might say unfortunate, because there's a lot of really bad things, but to be able to take those things and go through them and become stronger and better because of it. And as I said prior, it's like anytime something bad would happen, an injury, a loss, these devastating things, I'll be like, you have an opportunity here. What do you want to do with this? Are you going to let this break you, or are you going to use it as fuel to be better? Because that's on you. What do you want to do with it? Nobody else is doing this to you. You're going to let it break you, or you're going to be stronger for it. And you have to make that decision, and you have to know that's your decision. It's not anybody else's. And it's like once that clicks in your head that it's your responsibility, it makes it really hard to just point it. Like you can rely on your excuses, but you know that you're fucking doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I'm being a fucking bitch right now, and that almost makes it, you're like, you might do it for a moment. You're like, all right, I can't fucking live like this. Like, there's no fucking way. So because there have been those times when I did let situations and circumstances get the better of me. As I said before, it's not like you're all of a sudden strong with everything forever. You're going to have those moments. And oftentimes it's the moments you're least expecting, something that's maybe not as drastic as the really powerful ones or significant things you did before. And those are the ones that are really going to test you. It's when you don't actually need to be that strong, which is when you need to be the strongest.
What was your feeling or thought process once you did win?
Oh my gosh, I was still just in that moment, just like the fight, there wasn't, it's hard to explain what it was, because as we said before, like I didn't envision myself losing. I mean, there was times I'm like, yeah, he's going to hit me and I'm going to go down.
Yeah.
I was like, I so often for me, it wasn't even visualizing myself winning. It was visualizing myself never giving up. I'm like, there is nothing you can fucking do to me to make me back down, to slow down. I'm going to keep going forward. And if I do that, more than likely I'm going to fucking win, or I'm going to do very well. So that was kind of always my thing, is like, I know that I can outwork you. I know that I can outpain you. I can out difficult you. I know that I can outdo that with fucking anyone. And that's why people's technical ability level or experience level for me was just a non-factor. So like, you're not willing to go as dark and deep as I am, because I fucking live here.
Well, that's the difference in it. That's the difference in, the general populace or a world champion. So if you're listening and or watching, or, like you want to go the distance, like that right there is the difference. That's the difference between the 1% and the 99%.
And I think that's such a significant thing for people to understand, is so much of that is just refusing to give up. Clearly there's obviously talent and things you're born with, but that's only one piece of the puzzle.
I've watched people, with talent. I've watched people with talent. I've watched people with born gifts, and they quit before they even get started, because they don't have that extra level.
Right. And often it's better not to have that, because you're forced to build up those other pieces of the puzzle that you need. And when you are talented, you take advantage of that, and you don't think you need those other things.
Yeah.
But then eventually things are going to even out, and you're not going to have the strength, the willpower that it takes to push yourself past, where if you don't have that, that's all you have to rely on. Is like, I didn't think of myself as a very talented person. And again, starting as late as I did, I just refused to ever quit. And I would always push myself beyond anybody else. I was like, if we're working out today, you're never going to fucking outwork me. You can do more than me because you're bigger and stronger and faster, but
I'll still be here.
Fucking break you. I will fucking break you. And that was always my mentality when I fought, was I want to make you quit. I don't even want to knock you out. I want to make you quit. And that's where I got my nickname and why it stuck, the Soul Assassin, because I viewed things like that. I want you to question every belief you've ever had, and I want to break you, and I want you to quit, because I never will. I never will. And so I really enjoyed, especially like in training and stuff. It's like, I just want to break you so bad.
I just want to break your will.
Yeah. And well, I also want to find out if you have that will, so you find that out as well.
Yeah.
So I view that as a beneficial thing, because you're helping that person understand, do you really want to fucking do this? It's like getting thrown into the deep end. I talked about this the other day. There's that really great Hulk Hogan story where he gets his shin snapped that first day. And it's like, you really want to fucking do this. I'm helping you by giving you that difficulty, because it's going to show you if you want to do this.
Yeah.
So when you're pushing someone, it might seem like you're being mean to them, or, being a fucking asshole, which, yeah, sometimes you can be, but they should be thanking you for pushing them, because you're helping them make that decision. Well, and I'd rather you make that decision today.
People pay me now to do that. So
that's a great job.
But I'm brutally honest, and I tell them it comes from a place of love. Like, all these other people are going to lie to you. They're all going to lie to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the fucking truth. And that truth is so that you become a better human being. But
yeah, and if we did that more in this life, we'd probably all be better off.
So where can people find you? Where do they? I want them all to follow your Instagram so that we tell Meta to go fuck themselves. But where do people find you the best?
Yeah, Instagram's always the best, even though they got the shadow ban on me. That's pretty hard to break.
Well, hey, listen,
but you can tag me.
My listeners will absolutely love you, because I have a feeling they absolutely will love you. So you should go follow. What's your handle again?
It's The Soul Assassin, DA Soul Assassin, The Soul Assassin.
Yeah, the link's below.
That's my Twitter, my Instagram, everything else. So yeah, follow me and share my set so I can break out of this bubble they stuck me in for the last 3 years.
Well, there's so much more. I got to run, but there's so much more I want to talk to you about. So if you're down, I'd love to have you back on another time. Talk about kind of the
anytime, brother,
and everything that's going on in the past couple of years.
I'd love to, man. It's great talking to you.
Did you guys move to Montana yet? You did. We're in Montana, because we're coming out to snowboard mid-February.
Yeah, we're in Bozeman right now.
I'm coming to Cali spell. Snow.
Okay. Yeah, we actually spent a couple weeks up there prior to coming here. We were trying to find where we wanted to be, and this is a little closer to like the gyms and stuff. So This is where we're going to be probably. But I think eventually we're going to end up like that. We're going to retire up there.
We'll have to get Allie, and we'll have to come hang out. Hit, and you can show me how to hit the mats and not just do ground stuff.
Yeah, we've actually been talking about going back up there. When are you guys going out there?
Mid-February, second week.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we'll come up for the weekend or something.
That'd be dope, dude. That'd be super dope.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, go follow Kevin. You guys know the deal. Go share this. If you put this on social media, tag me, tag Kevin, and we'll push it out as well. A lot of little tidbits here that you need to apply into your life. So you guys know the deal. Never quit, never surrender. Always keep moving forward, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks, Kevin.